Hi, welcome back to the Honey Bothy. I'm Cameron. So, obviously, as you can see, I'm not at the apiary today. I'm actually at Loch Doon down in Dumfries, Galloway, just here doing a little fishing trip. But don't worry, this is still a beekeeping channel, and today we are going to be doing our next inspection. I just had a slight hiccup with the audio this week, so I'm just recording the outro and intro separately. The plan for today's video is we're going to do a very quick inspection of the hive, check that the girls are expanding as expected, and hopefully if they're ready, we're going to be putting a medium box on for them. So like I said, we're going to do a pretty quick inspection today. I've already done the inspection, so I know what's happening, but I'll keep you in a little bit of suspense. But the temperature when I was doing the inspection was a little bit cooler than ideal for doing the inspection. It's just I didn't really have another day that I could do it. So when I did the inspection, it was about 13 degrees. Because of that, we don't want to keep the box open any longer than we need to. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just look at a few of the frames in the box. I'm going to look at two on the outside of the box, and then I'm going to look at one or two in the middle of the box. And the reason for that is just to reduce the amount of time that I'm in the hive. For the outer two frames, what I'm looking for is that they've now drawn those frames out fully, and that the queen has now started to use those frames, so she's starting to lay eggs in them. And then on the inner frames, what I'm looking for is to see all that capped brood that I saw last week. I'm looking for all that to have emerged, and the queen has gone back in and started filling those with eggs. Like I said in last week's video, all that capped brood that I saw, I was expecting it to emerge this week. And the reason for that, and the reason I know it was going to emerge this week, is because all that capped brood was there when I got the boxes about 2 weeks ago. And capped brood takes about 12 days to emerge. So if I saw them 2 weeks ago, then I can pretty much guarantee that they're going to emerge this week, assuming they were capped over just as I was getting the box. And that's part of the reason that I wanted to expand the brood area, is because I knew that box was going to get quite busy because of all those bees emerging. Let's get into the inspection. I'll talk you through what I was doing, and I hope you enjoy. Okay, so first thing I want to do is just open up the lid and check that they've taken down the 4 litres of syrup that I've given them. I suspect they have, because they had a lot of frame to draw out. And yep, they've taken down that 4 litres. This is probably a good point to say that I'm actually doing this as a voiceover. Like I said, I had a slight technical issue with the audio recording for this episode, so I'm just doing it as a voiceover. So, into the hive itself, what I want to do is I'm going to focus on the outside frames, the frames that they were working the last time that I was in, because what I want to see is that they've now fully drawn out all those frames and that the queen is starting to lay those out. The other thing I'm looking for is that they're not storing excess stores in the frames that I want the queen to be laying in. I want to make sure that she's got loads of space to do that. I'm going to be giving them another box today because I know they're now starting to cap the cells that the queen had been laying in last week, or the last time I was in for the inspection. So the box is going to get very busy very fast now that the queen is really laying out these new frames. So I want to try and give them as much space as possible to store food in, now that we're going to be coming up into June and that June gap. Anyway, so on this frame, I'm seeing a lot of eggs on one side, and then I'm seeing all fresh capped over brood, as you can see there. They're also storing a lot of stores above the brood area, and as you can see on that side of the frame, you can see larvae down in the bottom of the cells, which is great to see. It means that the queen is really laying out these very well, and she has an amazing pattern, this queen. She's really utilizing the full frames as much as she can. Her daughters are filling them in with stores, but yeah, she's doing a great job at laying these out. And it's great to see that they're already capping frames that were fresh only, a couple of weeks ago. So what I'm doing here is I'm just going to take out this first frame to give myself some space to do the rest of the inspection. But the first thing I need to do is just make sure that there isn't any brood on this frame, because I don't want to be taking brood out of the box and then having that chill, because it won't be good for it. But I didn't see any brood on it. They were just filling that with nectar. So that frame's just good to hang outside. So next frame, this was one of the frames I got. Whoops, that's a slight drop there. This was one of the frames that I was given with the nuke, and as you can see, all that capped brood is now emerged. Like I was saying last week, I was expecting the rest of the capped brood to emerge this week, and the capped brood that you still see is just brood that was larva when I got the box. The cells that you see down at the bottom edge of the frame, this is all drone brood, so it looks very different from worker brood. It's much larger because the drones are bigger bees. And normally they use the edge of the frames for drone brood. As you can see, the queen is laying quite a lot of that brood at the moment, which is normal for this time in spring. Doing a great job at keeping all that to the edge of the frames and leaving the middle for worker, which is kind of normal for the queen pattern. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to move the middle frames. Like I said, I'm not really focused on these because these were the frames that I got with the Nook, and I knew she was laying out all these fine anyway. She hadn't quite got back to that frame that I just put back in terms of laying eggs again, but I think it's because she's focusing on these outside frames that the hive is just drawn out. These are all new frames, so she's working on the outside of the brood area at the moment, and she'll eventually work her way back into the middle. She just hasn't quite got back there from all that emerged brood. So in this frame, again, she's been laying out loads of eggs on it, and this was one of the fresh frames that I'd put in. So they've done a great job at drawing out the full frame, and again, the queen is laying out these frames really well. And as you can see at that top corner, that really light patch of capped over brood, that's literally probably been done either today or yesterday. Great to see that they're now working these new frames. And as I said, that brood will emerge in about 12 days. So about 2 weeks, we'll start seeing a load more bees in the box. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take out that frame the foundation had been taken out of, because I want to make sure that they've drawn that out fully now and there isn't any wonky comb on it. And as you can see, they've done an incredible job drawing out this frame, considering there wasn't any foundation in it. They've now taken it all the way to the edges of the frame. So it's amazing to see just how quickly they can do that, because if you think of that about that a week ago, they only had like the very top edge of it started, and now they've got it completely drawn out top to bottom with cells. And again, the queen is in already laying. You can see some bees kind of sticking into the cells. Those are nurse bees feeding the baby larvae that have just hatched. So you can see their little butts sticking out of the cells. So this frame again was one of the frames that I took the foundation out of. I was planning on replacing it. I've got another frame to replace it with, but they've actually already started drawing it out, so I'm just going to leave them to it. The only thing was that they'd kind of stuck some of the comb to the edge of the box. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to shift all the frames over to the other side of the box, so that gives them a bit of space to draw that frame out. But it's been a great inspection. We saw everything that we wanted to: eggs, larvae, capped brood on the new frame. So yeah, I'm really happy with the way that went. Okay, so like I said, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add this new medium box to the brood area, but underneath. So this is called Nadiring, or Nadiring your medium, and it's just because you're adding it underneath the main brood area. Now, the reason I'm doing that is because I want to trap the heat of the original brood area up against the roof. So, this is high school physics here. Heat wants to rise, so if I can trap that heat in the original brood area, that's going to make sure that there isn't any issues with the brood that's already there. And means that the bees will work down into that medium, which is actually kind of more natural if you think of, oops, I kind of had a slight issue getting the hive aligned on the pins, but that's okay. Yeah, it's kind of natural for the bees to want to work down, because if you think of them going into a tree hollow, they're starting at the top of the tree and then slowly working their way down, keeping brood kind of up at the top, and then all the honey in their stores around the edges of the brood area. Normally, we want to put additional boxes above the brood area. That's just because we want them to store their honey up in those boxes, so that we can easily collect them. But doing it this way it's not going to be an issue. All it does is it means that I'm more confident that they're going to be able to keep that heat in the original brood area without any issues. So, like I said, it was a really successful inspection. I saw everything that I needed to see. They've got stores. They've got plenty of space now with those newly drawn frames for the queen to lay eggs. I saw larvae. I'm seeing new cells getting capped over. So, it was a really good inspection. Now they've got loads and loads of space in that medium box. So I don't really need to worry about any swarm risk either. Like I said, the next week's going to be kind of cool. I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't chilling the brood. But yeah, no, that was a great inspection this week, and yeah. Okay, so that concludes today's video. I know it's a bit different because I'll be doing a voiceover this time, but I hope that was okay for everybody. But as you saw in the inspection, we saw eggs on the outer frames, so that means that the queen started laying those out. And we saw all that capped brood had emerged, and those cells are now empty and ready for the queen to start using. Like I said, I think the queen hasn't quite got to those middle frames again because the workers have drawn out all the outside frames. She's out working out those, and then all that capped brood in the middle has emerged, and she hasn't quite got back to those middle frames to start laying those with eggs. But that's absolutely fine. I would expect, hopefully next week, that she'll have gone back to those frames now and started laying out those. I'd put 2 litres of syrup in the feeder again, so that should help them start drawing out that bottom frame. They did have quite a bit of stores around the brood area, so I'm not too worried about them taking that in. And my plan is that I'm going to keep feeding them right up into June because I'm not planning on getting any spring honey at this time. So the goal is just to get the hive expanded as much as possible so that when we come out of June, after we get through the June gap, and we go into July, the colony is going to be really strong and able to go out and collect lots of forage. For this year, I'm not necessarily expecting to get any honey. I think the plan really is just to get the colony as strong as possible so that we can get them through winter. And if we can get them through winter nice and strong, then when we come into spring, they're going to be nice and ready to go out and start collecting that honey, and hopefully we can harvest some. I just wanted to say that I won't get any honey this year. There's a chance that, I might get, maybe 5 to 10 kilos if I'm lucky. It just depends on how quickly the girls are able to go out and forage and how good the flow is in July and August. So if the flow is good, I'll just keep an eye on the boxes, how full they are. And if they need another super on, I'll throw another super on, and then that super that I put on will be my honey. As you saw, I put the medium on below the deep. That was planned because of the temperature that it's going to be in the next week. The plan will be that in July, when the flow comes back on, I'll move that medium box above the deep again, as that's the sort of normal configuration for a bird and a half. So that's what we want to be going into, and that's what we want to have going into winter. My plan is to do that swap probably in July once the temperature gets warm enough again. So for next week, I'm going to be doing another inspection, as we always do, every 7 days. I don't quite know when I'm going to get round to it because, like I said, temperature is going to be quite low and a bit showery. So I'm hoping, normally I do my inspections on a Thursday. If not, I'll be trying to do it on Friday or Saturday. Ideally, I wouldn't leave it more than 10 days. I'm not too worried about swarming risk at the moment. I mean, that's the main thing about this time of year is you're looking for swarm cells. I'm not too worried about it because I've given them that other medium now. Their want to swarm should be quite low at the moment. I'm not too worried about them swarming. I hope you enjoyed today's video. I'd be interested to know if anybody else has done a similar method to what I'm doing, or how other people have dealt with doing inspections this time of year, especially in Scotland when the temperatures can be really unforgiving. So yeah, any hints, tips, comments would be greatly appreciated. And as always, if you enjoyed today's video, please hit that like button. And if you're enjoying the content that I'm putting on this channel, please do subscribe. It does help us out. So yep, I hope you have a good week, and I'll see you next time.